one round.
Have fun, boys. Good luck. Yeah.
So let's dive straight into it. Hi, I'm the Global Runner, and I'm a 51-year-old runner looking to break 2:30 in the New York City Marathon. This year, I tried earlier to get under 16 minutes for the 5K, and I got super close. I ran 16:01. And recently I've been doing a ton more mileage, and so I was hoping to be able to see if that mileage would convert to a faster 5K run this time around. So off we go. This is the Bromley Park Run. I ran a park run last week and I ran 17:08. It was a slower course, it was on gravel, there were lots of turnarounds. I was told that this one was a much faster one, and so I thought I'd come along and see if I could get closer to 16 minutes, and the title has given it away. I went under 16 minutes, so we'll have a look at that and I'll show you exactly how things went. Before we get into it though, I've got to apologise about my voice. I was at the Canada versus Fiji Women's Rugby World Cup match last night and I did a bit too much cheering, so my voice is a bit off today, but hey, you got to cheer. The first thing we can see about this park run was that there was a massive group of people to run with, and I have these people with me the whole way. So always in a race, it's a lot easier to run with people. And I knew these people were going to be aiming for about sort of 16 and a half minutes, because there was a guy at start called Daniel who was super friendly and came up to me and had watched a few of the videos, and he said that there was a big group aiming for around that time. So I deliberately once again didn't look at my watch and I just ran with it. I wanted to see if I could just stick with this group, and I'd stick with them as long as I possibly could. In retrospect, I think my camera was looking a little bit too high. I did try and check that at the outset, but so you've got a proper bird's eye view of this one. Sorry about that, nothing I could do about it. But you can see there's a group of about 4 of us who have got away. There was a little bit of a gap that was opening up at the start, but I was determined just to make sure that I didn't go away too fast at the outset. And so this course is 2.5 laps of this field really here. So you can see that we've got a narrow pathway that we stay on the whole way, but it's pavement. And I would say that it's quite the bit that we're running on at the minute was super flat, and the other side was super flat, but the 2 other sides of the square were a little bit uphill one way and downhill the other way. So we're turning right here, and this is the start of the stretch that just felt a little bit uphill. As I say that, I see the slope went to -1, so maybe we'll see for the first time here whether or not this was in fact uphill, but it certainly felt uphill for me. And you can see my heart rate was pretty high up there already. Like, I went straight into this effort and I was determined to make sure that I had a good one. The guy in front of me kept looking at his watch all the time, so I knew he was looking for a particular time, and I knew that we would be on the pace that he was looking for, but I was just determined not to look at my watch at all and just stay with these guys and see how long I could stick with them. And I've got to say, it's always great running with people. So I'll speed it up a little bit now so we can race through these first few kilometres. But as you can see, I went through the first kilometre a little minute ago, and it was about a 3:06 first kilometre. But again, I wasn't paying attention to any of that. My only goal at this point was to stay with this group, whatever pace they ran. And I was glad that they were running a pace that I felt was okay at this point. I do have to say that on the warm-up, my legs didn't feel the best. They felt a bit sore, they felt a bit tired. I've been having a few issues with tight calves and a bit of a heel issue recently, but gotta say, on the day, everything came together. So always think about the warm-up. It doesn't always have to be perfect when you're warming up, and often we joke that the worse the warm-up, the better the run. So here we are at about the mile mark in about sort of 5:09, 5:10. Again, I didn't know that I was running this pace, but it was exactly where I wanted it to be, and you could see the guy in front checking his watch. So I knew he was in control of the pace and where he wanted to be. and I knew he wanted to be around the sort of 16-ish minute mark, so I just wanted to stay with these guys. At this point on the course, it felt like a downhill, and you can see it's a very small downhill. It's like -1, -2, but I felt like I needed to just put in a little bit of an effort to make sure these guys knew that I was still here, and do a bit of the dragging of my own as well. So I moved a little bit nearer the front just to do a bit of the pulling. This guy who's on my right here looked super easy the entire way, so I didn't really want to go past him, and I felt like we were going fast enough. I didn't know at the time, but my heart rate was nearly at the 170s already at this point. But again, we're nearly halfway through the race. That's the beauty of a 5k, is you've got no time to just sort of worry about things. You just got to get on with it. And we were coming up to the 2k mark here, so you'll see in a moment that we go through the 2k mark in 6:22. So that was about a 3:16 second kilometre. So we did the first kilometre in 3:06. It's always going to be faster the first kilometre. You're getting hard out of the gate. And then 3:16 for the second kilometre. So we had settled in at this point. So let's scoot things forward again, and we'll again have another look at where we are at the halfway mark. So look at that, spot on pace. We went through halfway in just a few seconds under 8 minutes. Of course, if we wanted to break 16 minutes, we needed to be at halfway at about the 8-minute mark. So we were spot on, exactly the right pace here. But again, I didn't know this. I was just running with these guys and hoping that they would drag me around. And the idea here was just to hold on and make sure they didn't get away. We then turned right here and climbed again back up the hill. I call it a hill. It felt like a bit of an effort, but this was the part of the course that I really had to dig in, and I'll speed it forward a little bit here. But I was really just digging in, making sure that I didn't lose them up this hill. I knew that I would have a few twisty corners coming up at the end of this climb, and I knew the other side of the park was a downhill. So the key was to just stay with them on this bit. And as long as I could stay with them on this bit, I was confident that I could stay with them for the rest of the race too. So that was the 3-kilometre point in just about 10:10, there or thereabouts. Again, didn't know that at the time, but I did know that we were coming up with a lap to go. This is the finish that we're passing here. That's very nice, getting called speedy people. But I knew now we only had 1 lap left. So we'd done a lap and a half and we had 1 lap left. So in my head, I was thinking that we had less than 2k left. And I knew that once we got up this hill, we turned right, went round through a few twisty corners, and things would start getting serious and we would be coming towards the end of where we needed to be. This bit got really quite busy, and there were people, they were very good staying left all of the time, but not everyone stayed left, I have to say. And so there are times coming up where it gets super busy and it's a bit difficult to get past these people, but we did a really good job, and lots of people were shouting stay left all the time to make sure that we were able to get through. So really great to see. There were like 700 people running this, which was really good. And then finally, we are coming up to the 4-kilometre mark, so 1 kilometre to go. We're just trying to get around people, just trying to make sure that we don't get in anyone's way and that we get a clear run through. We were pretty much single line at this point, and I was just focused on the 2 guys in front. I knew they weren't getting away, and so I was just happy where I was. I didn't know who was behind. There we go, 4k in 13:29, and so we had a kilometre to go. This was the bit that felt downhill and felt easier, so I was feeling pretty relaxed at this point. And again, I didn't know who was behind. I didn't know how far behind they were, but I knew there were people queuing up to get past me. But at this point, everyone was just single file, just trying to get through this crowd. So here we go, the race to the finish. We turn right and then it's the hard bit uphill. I knew we had about 500 meters to go, I'm at 170 plus beats a minute. Who wants it the most? Like, my legs were feeling tired, they weren't feeling like they had any pep, but I did feel like I was in with a shout here. Like, this guy in front of me is the leader. I didn't know who was behind. I didn't know how things were going to shape out, but I knew I had about 400 meters to go, and I was just digging in to grind up what felt like this hill to try and get past. So I was quite happy where I was. I was sat on this guy's shoulder, and I thought I would make a break for the finish as soon as I saw these cones that came into sight. Just as I hit the front though, this guy from nowhere comes flying past. So I took the lead for about half a second, and this guy came past. So I thought, if I can just hold on to him, wait for the cones, then maybe give it a boost, come past him in a minute. So I'm holding on, I'm digging in, and at this point, and I'll pause it here, at this point I thought I was going to win. But then look what happens next. Some guy comes shooting up from the left, out of nowhere, didn't even see him coming, couldn't quite get past this guy in front of me, but at that point it didn't matter, we weren't racing for the win. I actually kicked him as we went over the line, so sorry about that, mate. But at this point I didn't know how fast I'd run. Again, I wasn't looking at my watch, I wasn't looking at anything, and it took me a minute. I knew I'd really put everything into it because I thought I was going to be sick at one point, and that is when you know you've given it everything. And at this point I still didn't know what time I'd done, so I walked through the finish. Thanks to all the volunteers who were there. This was a really well run event. I was very happy with how I ran and how I performed. I was a little bit disappointed that I let these two guys out sprint me, but as soon as I saw my time I was over the moon. So it's 15:57, which gives me apparently a 93% age grading. So I was very, very happy with that, and gotta say, bodes well for going forward for the 2:30 marathon. It looks like the training is paying off.